Yesterday, I discussed ESPN's Adam Schefter's list of players who could be traded before the trade deadline, and only Jakobi Meyers from the Raiders was among them, and today, we got news from insider Ricky Scoops, who actually confirmed that the Raiders are seriously thinking about trading Meyers. Now, why I am giving value to Ricky Scoops? Because he has a track record of fair reporting. He not only predicts, but confirms. Either it's Micah Parsons to Green Bay trade or Amari Cooper return to the Raiders, so this dude's legit, maybe even better than Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport at this point. Now back to Meyers. Do you remember back in preseason when Jakobi requested a trade and Raiders declined? Basically, that was due to a contract extension. Meyers wants something around $17 to $18 million a year. Now he's getting around $11 million a year. The Raiders made it pretty clear they wanted to keep him and weren't planning to ship him out, but here's the thing. They still haven't given him his contract. If you're not going to pay the man, you're eventually going to have to trade him, right? And with the trade deadline coming up in like 2 weeks, the writing's kind of on the wall. Look, it's unfortunate in a way, because Meyers is probably our best wide receiver right now. He's been the most consistent guy we've had this season. Since 2019, when he was signed with New England, he's consistently playing. That's really a big deal where you see most players usually get out for 5 or 6 games every season. And he has a breakout season in 2024 with 1,000+ yards. So he's consistent in not only playing, but in performance too.
But on the flip side, 2 other wide receivers, Trey Tucker and Jack Bech, are quickly taking over primary roles. In fact, Jack Bech is now officially WR3. Although he has not gotten a ton of targets, it's only been 2 weeks. When you watch his routes, he's getting separations. He's beating his guy consistently. Maybe it's not always for touchdowns, maybe it's just 5 or 6 yard gains, but he's having success. So the Raiders might be thinking they'd rather roll with Tucker and Bech, plus Michael Mayer, and eventually Brock Bowers when he gets healthy. Now, most people also think that the Raiders are trading Meyers because they are tanking, but I don't think so. I actually think it means they're more confident in a guy like Bech. People need to remember that Bech didn't play early on in training camp, wasn't really involved in the offseason, and that hindered his development a bit. Then Dante Thornton started flashing and became the focal point while Bech got pushed to the backside. But he was a second-round pick for a reason. The Raiders had a higher grade on him. Now back to Meyers, and I'll be honest with you guys. Before the season started, I was okay with trading Meyers. I've talked about this multiple times. He's a good receiver, don't get me wrong, but that one massive game he had early on kind of just proved he's more of a solid guy than a game changer. Outside of that week 1 or 2 performance, he's been pretty average, and Tucker has actually outproduced him in several games. Honestly, I think Tucker's better than Meyers, or at least has way more potential.
But Meyers has plenty of NFL experience now. You actually need a veteran on your roster to develop young players. So if the Raiders decided to trade Meyers, they must think of a good value. Look, after this season, Jakobi will go into free agency, and the Raiders will get a compensatory 4th-round pick. So what does that mean? It means if Raiders don't get higher pick, they should not forcefully trade him. Another way could be getting a player plus a pick against Meyers, and my 6th sense says the Raiders are actually exploring this option. I think within the next 3 or 4 days, if not today or tomorrow, this trade is going to happen. Ricky Scoops isn't the type to just make stuff up. He's been solid like 85% of the time. The real question is, what happens after this? Are the Raiders making more trades, selling other pieces? There are definitely guys on this roster that teams would want. Jeremy Chin is an asset. Teams would probably use him as a linebacker. Jamal Adams has proven he still has value. Maxx Crosby is probably our most valuable defensive asset, though I seriously doubt he gets moved. You could theoretically trade guys like Adam Butler if you're really having a fire sale, but I don't think that makes sense. And one thing that I guess should be a top discussion, and that is the quarterback situation. Look, I know the Raiders are back on the winning track, and Geno played quite well in the last game. Good thing about his game was that he avoided deep passes, which were costing him interceptions. So if he continues playing like this, he's good to go. But they are still 2-4, and trade deadline is approaching. It means if management believes they need a new QB, they will have to act fast. What do you think? Do you think the Raiders will find a new quarterback, or will they continue with Geno for the rest of the season?
Now, moving to the upcoming match against the Chiefs, the Raiders face a tough test in Week 7. Heading into Arrowhead Stadium to face the Chiefs is never an easy task, and this game carries even more weight with the injury report hanging over the team. The Raiders are already dealing with some troubling injuries, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Key players are questionable, and the lack of depth in certain areas means that every healthy body will need to step up. The coaching staff will be watching the injury report closely, but this is a game where the Raiders need to show that they can overcome adversity and still compete at a high level. Maxx Crosby, as always, will be crucial for the defense, and he's no stranger to the atmosphere at Arrowhead. He knows the rivalry with Mahomes and the Chiefs well, and every time these two teams meet, the intensity is palpable. Crosby has made it clear that he has nothing but respect for Mahomes, but when they're on the field, it's all business. The energy between these two on the field is unmatched, and Crosby will have his sights set on disrupting Mahomes and making sure the Raiders' defense does its part to give the offense a chance. With the injury concerns looming, Crosby's leadership and his ability to take control of the defensive line will be critical for the Raiders to have any shot at slowing down Kansas City. Offensively, the injury situation is a bit more concerning. The Raiders' offensive line has struggled at times this season, and the Chiefs' defense will be bringing the heat. Geno Smith's performance will be more important than ever. He's been steady lately, but without a fully healthy offensive line or some key playmakers on the field, he'll have to be even more resourceful. If the injuries continue to pile up, it could become a battle of wills. Can Smith make the right decisions and keep the offense moving despite the limitations? On top of that, the running game will be another key factor. The Raiders need to establish a balanced attack, and with Ashton Jeanty's reps increasing, he's showing he can be the spark the team needs. The rookie running back has steadily become more involved, and his ability to keep the chains moving could help take some pressure off Smith and the passing game. Even with the injuries, if Jeanty can handle a bigger workload, he'll be a pivotal part of the game plan. Of course, the environment at Arrowhead remains a huge challenge. Geno Smith and the offense will need to manage the noise, but with the right preparation, they can minimize the impact. Pete Carroll has been great about getting his teams ready for tough road games, and with a little luck on the injury front, the Raiders can put together a solid plan. It's going to be a tough road ahead, but despite the injury report, this is a prime opportunity for the Raiders to show they can compete with one of the best teams in the league. If they execute the game plan, stay healthy enough to avoid major setbacks, and keep their heads cool in a high-pressure environment, this could be the upset that gets the Raiders back on track. The rivalry is always intense, and despite the obstacles, the Raiders are more than capable of turning the page and making a statement in Arrowhead.